Welcome back, everyone. Today I am going to do something that I haven't done in quite a while, and that is the whole roll video. So this is kind of a series. I've only done once so far, but this is a format where I show you the entire roll that I've shot with a certain film stock on a certain camera, and I don't edit anything, so the photos are as is and the entire roll is shown, so you can see that I don't only get bangers, though you're probably aware that I'm not getting bangers on everything anyways. So I'm going to show you everything, including the outtakes, and the roll that I want to show you today is one that I've shot in collaboration with Lomography. So they sent me 2 rolls of the recently renewed Lomochrome Metropolis, and I shot those, and they published a few of the photos on their blog, but I thought it would be interesting to see the rest of them as well. So we're going to go right into it and into my Lightroom catalog, and let's look at the rolls. So I'm actually going to show you 2 rolls this time around, because I shot them with a Olympus XA for the 35mm and a Mamiya 6 for the medium format, and the results were quite different, and I really found that interesting, and I want to show you both of them in contrast. So let's start with the 35mm. This is on the Olympus XA. This is along my commute, and I think most of them are. And you can see the underbelly of Shibuya Station, where you go down to the subway. And right away you can see that this gives us a really grungy, kind of greenish look with lots of grain. And of course, this is the first frame on the roll, so you've got those light leaks on the edge of the frame as well. This is the second frame. This is a little less on the fly. It doesn't have the light leaks, and I actually prefer the first one. So let's go to the third one. This is a shot that I know works. This is the escalators down into the station, and I just really enjoy how these are lit. And you can see again, this is a really grungy look with really flat shadows and then green highlights. And this is another pretty similar shot, but this is a composition that I really enjoy, and this is just something I know works. So I shot this on this roll as well. This again, same kind of location. You can see I'm going upwards towards the JR lines here, and I really enjoy the windows here. They give a little bit of reflection while you have people walking by, so you actually have that multiplied layered effect that I really enjoy. And this is on the train platform. This is, I think, pretty under exposed, because I shot this at, I believe I shot it at 400, but it was still not a lot of light down there, so does end up a little underexposed. And this is up in Omiya now, and you can see this crisscrossing staircase that I really enjoy, and again, it kind of compresses the tones down. This film stock has really dark shadows, and there's not a lot of latitude in this. And this is looking down on a bus stop. I really enjoy the kind of spotlight-like illumination on this spot. It always makes for great pictures. Secondary, kind of alternate take. This is a little bit out of focus, so I would definitely prefer the first one. One of my favorite street corners in Omiya, and it always looks really great when it's wet. So when you have a little rain in there, it creates this really nice reflection on the floor, and I think this really looks nice with this film stock, because it has these kind of orangey red tones that really work well with this scene. Alternate take, I definitely prefer this one. So this is, I think, a little bit better framed, and it frames out these white highlights on the edge there that I don't think contribute that much to the scene. And this is obviously the same scene still, but focused on the ramen place in the foreground. And looking into the ramen place, I'm kind of bummed that this guy kind of moved out of the frame behind those, I guess it's water pitcher or something. So you can't see his face anymore, and that's kind of a bummer because it would have placed like a nice little accent in there. It has kind of blurred glass anyway, so you wouldn't be able to identify him, but yeah, it would have made the whole frame a little nicer. And you can also see that I frequently tilt my frames, so usually when I post this to Instagram, I do crop them and set them straight. Oh. And again, Shibuya Station. These kind of crisscrossing staircases are a very favorite motif of mine. I really enjoy what this kind of construction looks like. So I think this is probably a 7 out of 10, but yeah. This frame I really like because it has these light streaks on the floor down there. And you have the delivery guy coming towards us. Again, this is really compressed in really dark shadows. So I probably should have overexposed this a little bit, but I would have lost pretty much all of the background. So yeah, not a whole ton of latitude in this film. Again, you can see all the highlights are pretty much blown out here, and the shadows are still very dark. So same kind of thing. This is kind of a boring shot, so not really anything I would keep. This one I really like. It's a little, again, tilted. I would probably correct that in post. But I do like how this kind of greenish, grungy look works with the subway scene. I think it works really, really well with this kind of subject and this kind of composition. Again, back to one of the locations you just saw. This is a shot that I have taken probably a dozen times. It's not my favorite out of those, but I think you can see how it kind of layers the perspective in the shot. And I do enjoy that all of these figures are blurred out here. Same but vertical, and you can actually see me taking the picture here in the top third of the frame in the middle here. And again, the train platform, again, not a lot of light, so this was definitely underexposed. I really enjoy this one. It's a little tilted too much. I do enjoy that it's tilted because it was really shot on the fly, but there's a little much maybe, so I would probably, whoop, where am I going? I would probably tilt it just enough to frame out that little rectangle here in the top right corner. Once you have that out, I think it would stand really well on its own as a composition. All right, this is outside of Shibuya Station, and they have this huge, kind of oddly shaped advertising wall. That is, of course, a video monitor, and it looks really interesting. And again, you can see all the blacks and the shadows are really compressed in this. So this film kind of really needs a lot of light. And we'll get back to that once we go to the medium format shots. I do enjoy how kind of brownish, yellowish, and orange tones look in this film. So this scene is along a line of like drinking and after hours restaurants, and they all have these orange and yellowish lights on there, and I think this really makes them look really nice because it has those really rich brown and orange tones. So I kind of enjoy this shot a lot, but again, not a lot of shadow detail. This is kind of the same kind of scene, but looking back at those skyscrapers that you saw in the previous shot. And this is looking into one of those establishments. It's kind of a boring shot because there was just nobody in there. I guess I just came at the wrong time. Otherwise, it could have been an interesting shot, but again, not a lot of light available. And this is kind of, you've probably seen this in other people's photography. This is a very often photographed spot. I do appreciate how the Metropolis looks on this shot, because it creates that kind of grungy, street feeling look that I think fits this particular scene with the graffiti and like the people coming through and that kind of dirtied wall really well. And this is kind of a throwaway street kind of shot. Not a fan, but I do like this orange tone here on the side, which is probably why I took it, because I usually frame for color. And again, we're looking into a restaurant here, and there is someone in there, but you can't see in the dark in the shadow details. So not a great film for this kind of situation. And this is just hopelessly underexposed. This one I kind of like because you have that contrast between the night scene and this brightly illuminated nightlife district that is just so exemplary of what people probably expect from Tokyo. So this is again Shibuya, and this is probably one of the scenes that you would expect from Shibuya. And I do enjoy this guy here leaning against the glass and the people walking in behind him. So again, nice layers. You have the windows kind of framing the shot. I would probably straighten this up again, but otherwise I think it's a good shot. Not perfect, but it's okay. Alternate take on one of the elevator staircases I already showed you. And pointing the other way, I do enjoy this person here in the middle just taking a big step away from me. So that gives it a nice little bit of movement in the center of the frame. And then that's juxtaposed with the person leaning against the wall right next to them. And looking into a Psycho Line, I think, car. I do appreciate this because I think for this kind of night train and kind of a depressing mood of the people stacked inside this car, I think this kind of grungy, compressed look works really well. And again, that ramen place, we're kind of jumping in back and forth because this was shot on several days of my commute. And looking inside a restaurant, this is, I feel, a nice shot, especially because it's kind of white frame with the shape of those windows, and you're looking inside the kitchen, and there's just these steaming pots on the right, and then the person on the left. Obviously, it would have been nicer if they were facing towards me, but you know, I kind of chicken out in situations like that. And then now we're downstairs in Omiya, and I really liked the combination of that blue construction tent here on the left, and then that delivery person with the bright red backpack, and there's also an orange traffic cone behind them. Obviously they were going by, so it was hard timing for that shot. I would have appreciated if they were maybe a little more to the left, but it's kind of from the hip, so didn't have a lot of choice. But I think it still works pretty well, especially when you have that blue tent and then the green, probably a porta potty, on the right, framing that red center composition. And then we have, of course, it's Japan, we've got some taxis. This is kind of I've taken this scene better, I think. And I also don't like how washed out and blue all the highlights in the back are. This is, now we're in daytime, so you can see it works really differently in daytime. And I'm still not quite sure which ISO I shot this at. I might have shot this at 200 actually. Let me bring up my interview and then we will see what I shot it at. Okay, so I shot this at 200 and you can see the highlights in the daylight scene on the 35mm are kind of washed out and kind of bluish as well. So we're going from that green tone that we had previously now in a kind of a blue. And there might be people that enjoy this. I'm not a fan. So I'm not a big fan of this this shot in particular and the color set the film gave me on this. And those are kind of the only two daylight shots that I had with the 35mm. So these two, and they are both pretty blue and kind of washed out, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. But then let's go to the second roll that was shot on the medium format camera, and you will see gives us quite a different look. So now we're in Ueno with the Mamiya 6, and we're shooting a daylight scene, and this is probably obviously exposed for daylight, and these are, I think, still at 200. But you can see it's a lot kind of softer in the tones, and it does have a little bit of that bluish greenish tinge, but not as I would say harsh as on the 35mm. So let's go there, and then again, once you get a little bit of orange in there, I think it works really well, and I really enjoy these colors particularly. And then again, I made sure to include some orange and some yellow and some reds into these shots because in the first place, that's a color that I really enjoy, but also I do enjoy how it looks on this particular film. So I'm actually quite fond of what this looks like in contrast to those kind of grungy greenish tones that we get here on the pavement. And then we have the yellow taxi in the back with the orange stripe that just looks really good as well. And then again, we've got some orange, we've got some yellow, and we've got that construction machine, which is actually kind of this turquoise color in the center left here, and that weird kind of monument on top of the overhead walkway. And then this cage on the right side contrasted with the construction site on the left, I think works really well for the composition as well. And again, one of my things is kind of looking into shops from the outside and through the shop windows. And this is something that I think works really well because it's got all of these colors and all of that writing in the frame, and I do enjoy how that looks. This is, I think, the only shot on the medium format roll that I don't enjoy. I kind of wanted to include that guardman on the back, but I wanted to have those leading lines from the alleyway guiding towards him. And there's also a family here on the right side walking towards us, but it's kind of too wide. And I do appreciate these bikes in the frame here, but it's kind of, especially with the lack of definition that I got on this, and it's not even focused on the people here, I think it doesn't work. This, on the other hand, again has that red delivery bike on the left, and then it's got the leading lights going out towards the right into the other direction, and I think this works. Would have been interesting to have a few people in there, maybe wait for a bike. There is one here in the back, but it's kind of too far away and kind of muddled in the shadow, so you can't really see it. So that's kind of a bummer. Here you can see how this film renders kind of wood texture. Again, we have a little bit of red here that's unfortunately a little obscured by the person on the bicycle here. And I do like the wood color, and then that blue sky and that little parking sign on the right here. Again, it's a little tilted, so I would probably correct that in post, but otherwise I like this shot. This again is a little bit out of focus, but I do enjoy how that kind of brownish building here on the right looks, and the person crossing the street on the left. When you have people crossing the street or just walking in general, it does look better when the feet are apart and the legs are kind of in this triangle shape, but it's very hard to hit. So especially when you're trying to frame them in a particular position in the frame, it's very hard to time it right, and I failed on this one. I do kind of like, because his foot is still in the air, so it doesn't look too bad. I might have waited for him to get a little closer, but I would probably have to frame it differently and kind of lose a lot of that right side building. I do think that right side building, it's about a little more than a third of the shot, and that is framed pretty well in my opinion. And then we have the bike kind of in between, kind of framed in between these two red highlights, which I think work well. I liked how this is, I think, like a barbecue shop. And then, of course, this is a drink vending machine, and I kind of enjoy how that looked. This is one of my favorite shots from the roll. I do enjoy this lady's reddish skirt, and the person behind her was clad in red as well, and she's about to cross the street, obviously. And then we have that kind of greenish awning above her with, again, this green and red sign of the supermarket above her. So all of that, and all of that being in the right half of the frame, with then that light pole kind of dissecting the frame, and there's not a lot more shadows, and of course that greenish concrete color on the left side. So the left third is completely taken over by kind of this dark and greenish look, and I think that really works well as a composition. So this is probably this and those shots in the beginning with those orange highlights, and again this lady on the bike. I think those are my favorite 3 shots from the whole. And then to close it out, we have this scene of this gentleman walking away into the light, and then we have this nice dark shadowy bush taking over a third on the left of the frame. And then again, the right side of the frame is kind of more light colored with a lot of highlights, and they're a little blown out here in the top portion, but I think it's okay. I would rather preserve that kind of shadow detail on the left side and get rid of those highlights instead. All right, and that's my 2 rolls of Lomography Metropolis shot on the Olympus XA and the Mamiya 6. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite of those shots, if you liked the look of the 35 or the medium format, and anything you want to put down in the comments. The comments for me are worth much more than views or likes or whatever. I'm here for the comments, so if you have anything to say, let me hear it in the comments. And thank you for watching today, and I hope to see you again soon.